Chosen one. Why are you still waiting for permission to step into what God already approved? Why are you treating your calling like a suggestion when heaven stamped it as a commandment? And tell me, why are you sitting in the back row of your own destiny when the Father's been holding a front row seat with your name carved in gold? Stop, right there. Before you scroll past this, before you convince yourself, this is just another message. I need you to understand something that's going to shake you to your core. You didn't find this video. This video found you. There are 8 billion people breathing on this planet right now, and yet somehow, some way, heaven orchestrated this exact moment. Your finger hitting play, your eyes meeting these words. Your spirit, yes, your weary, battle-scarred, but still believing spirit connecting with this divine frequency. Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. Wednesday isn't just another day on your calendar. It's a coded appointment written in heaven's registry. And only 1% of people walking this earth will be spiritually positioned to receive what's being released. Think about that. 1%. You've been tired, haven't you? Bone deep, soul tired. You've been wondering if God forgot your address, if your prayers got lost in heaven's mailroom. But something deep inside you, deeper than doubt, stronger than disappointment, knows that something seismic is about to shift. Heaven is dialing your number right now, and you just picked up. Listen, I've walked with the Lord for 5 decades. I've seen seasons change, empires fall, and miracles birth from impossible circumstances. But what I'm sensing in the spiritual atmosphere right now, it's unlike anything I've witnessed. There's a rumbling in the heavenlies, a stirring, a divine disruption that's about to collide with earthly reality. Wednesday carries prophetic weight. It's not coincidence that you're hearing this today. God's been positioning you, preparing you, refining you for this moment when heaven's surprise intersects with your surrender. Your breakthrough has a Wednesday timestamp. Before we go deeper, and we're going deep tonight, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead. But right now, if your spirit's stirring, if something inside you is saying yes before your mind can object, drop a comment that simply says, I'm ready for Wednesday. Because when thousands agree, atmospheres break open. When the chosen unite, heaven responds. Are you ready to discover why you're part of the 1%? Have you ever wondered why you feel like you're living someone else's life? Why does every morning feel like you're putting on a costume that doesn't quite fit? And when did you start believing that the woman who once believed she could change the world somehow became invisible to heaven itself? Listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've been carrying about your significance. You've been living under the greatest deception of your generation, the myth that ordinary is all you'll ever be. You wake up, make your coffee, check on the grandkids, maybe tend to that garden you've been nurturing for decades. And somewhere between the routine and the responsibility, you started whispering to yourself, this is it. This is all there is. But what if I told you that while you've been calling yourself forgotten, heaven has been calling you chosen? For 70 years, maybe 80, you've walked the same hallways of habit, the same grocery store aisles, the same church pew, the same conversation topics at family dinners. But behind one door you haven't opened yet, is something so divine, so specifically designed for you, that angels have been waiting for this Wednesday to reveal it. You see, the enemy's greatest weapon isn't temptation, it's not even tragedy. It's the slow, suffocating lie that your best days are behind you, that your purpose expired when you retired, that your prayers bounce off the ceiling because somehow God got too busy for seniors. You've raised families, haven't you? Poured your life into children who now have children of their own. You've buried dreams that felt too big for your small-town reality. You've grieved losses that carved canyons in your heart. And somewhere along the way, maybe it was after the diagnosis, maybe after the funeral, maybe after watching your contemporaries fade away, you started believing that the best already happened. But what if that's the cruelest lie Satan ever whispered in your ear? In Jeremiah 29:11, God doesn't say, "I had plans for you." He says, "I know the plans I have for you." Present tense, right now, at your age, with your history, with your scars. He's not speaking about some golden yesteryear. He's declaring over your Wednesday morning coffee, "I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." A future. At 75, at 83, at 91. Think about Moses. 80 years old when God called him to lead a nation out of bondage. Sarah, 90 when she conceived the miracle child. Caleb, 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." These weren't young warriors in their prime. These were seasoned souls who discovered that God's timeline doesn't match Social Security's retirement schedule. You've been measuring your worth by society's standards. Society says you're past your expiration date. Society says your opinions are outdated, your energy is depleted, your relevance is retired. But society doesn't sign paychecks in heaven's economy. Here's what the world won't tell you. The very experiences that convinced you that you're ordinary, the decades of faithfulness, the quiet acts of service, the prayers spoken in hospital waiting rooms, the tears shed over prodigal children, those experiences didn't diminish your calling. They refined it. Every disappointment was a classroom. Every loss was preparation. Every year you've lived has been heaven's graduate school, preparing you for an assignment so significant that it required your entire lifetime of experience to qualify for it. But the enemy knows this. That's why he's worked overtime to convince you that your season is over. Because if you ever discovered what God has been preparing you for, if you ever realized that your Wednesday breakthrough has been decades in the making, you'd become unstoppable. You think you're too old. Abraham was 100 when he received his promise. You think you're too tired. Isaiah 40:31 declares that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. You think you've missed your moment. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven. Your season isn't ending. It's beginning. The same hands that knitted you together in your mother's womb didn't forget the blueprint. The same God who numbered your days didn't make a mathematical error. The same Father who called you beloved at 15 still calls you beloved at 75. You are not done. But here's the part that's going to revolutionize everything. What if God saved the most meaningful moment of your entire life for this very Wednesday? What if every Wednesday you've lived, every ordinary, routine, forgettable Wednesday, was actually preparation for the Wednesday that changes everything? What if heaven has been holding its breath, waiting for you to stop accepting ordinary and start expecting extraordinary? The phone is about to ring. The letter is about to arrive. The conversation is about to happen. The door is about to open. And when it does, you're going to look back at this moment and realize that God wasn't late. He was right on time. Type in the comments right now, "I am not done." Because that's exactly what heaven is about to prove. That your story isn't over. It's about to reach its most powerful chapter yet. But first, you need to understand exactly why Wednesday isn't just another day on your calendar. You want to know why only 1%? Because 99% of people are living by man's calendar while God operates on heaven's timetable. And right now, this very Wednesday, those two timelines are about to collide in your life with supernatural force. Let me tell you something that's going to revolutionize how you see this moment. Most people think timing is about being in the right place at the right time, but divine timing is about being the right person when God's moment breaks into your ordinary Wednesday. Wednesday, the middle of the week, the hump day that everyone complains about. But in heaven's economy, Wednesday represents something profound. It's the pivot point, the fulcrum where everything can shift in an instant. It's not Monday's beginning or Friday's ending. It's the exact center where God loves to demonstrate his power to turn everything around. You see, the enemy has convinced you that breakthrough comes on Sundays in church or during New Year resolutions. But God specializes in Wednesday surprises. He moves when you least expect it, when your guard is down, when you've stopped performing and started just breathing. Think about Joseph. 13 years. 13 long years of slavery, false accusations, forgotten promises in that Egyptian prison. 13 years of wondering if God had lost his address. And then one Wednesday morning, because it had to be a Wednesday, Pharaoh had a dream. One dream. And by sunset, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister. One day. One divine interruption. One Kairos moment that rewrote his entire destiny. But here's what breaks my heart: how many Josephs are sitting in their prison cells right now, scrolling past their Wednesday appointment because they don't recognize the sound of heaven's alarm clock. Esther knew this secret. For such a time as this, the scripture says, not for such a year, not for such a season, for such a time as this. A specific moment when earth's crisis meets heaven's solution, and only one person is positioned to be the bridge. Are you getting this? Your Wednesday isn't random, it's strategic. It's been marked on heaven's calendar since before you drew your first breath. Here's the brutal truth that's going to shake you. God has been watching how you handled silence. He's been monitoring how you responded when nothing made sense, when the phone didn't ring, when the door stayed closed, when the healing didn't come. And now he's about to speak. But he only speaks to those who learn to listen in the quiet. This is what separates the 1% from the 99%. The 99% live life staring at clocks, checking their phones, counting days, measuring progress by human metrics. But the 1%? The 1% have developed spiritual ears. They feel when God's clock ticks differently. They sense the shift in the atmosphere before the weather changes. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange stirring in your spirit lately. That restlessness that keeps you up at night. That sense that something is brewing, building, about to break loose. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's anticipation. That's your spirit recognizing the sound of heaven's footsteps approaching your front door. In the Greek, there are two words for time: chronos and kairos. Chronos is clock time, seconds, minutes, hours ticking by in predictable rhythm. But kairos is God's time. It's divine interruption time. It's when heaven invades earth and rewrites the script in real time. Wednesday is your kairos moment. Remember old Simeon at the temple? Luke 2 tells us the Holy Spirit revealed to him that he would not die before he saw the Messiah. Can you imagine, day after day, year after year, this elderly man showing up at the temple, waiting, watching, believing for a promise that seemed impossible? His friends probably thought he'd lost his mind. His family probably suggested he retire, stay home, accept reality. But Simeon knew something they didn't. He knew that when God gives you a promise, he also gives you the grace to outlast every circumstance that contradicts it. And then one ordinary Tuesday, yes, it had to be an ordinary day, Mary and Joseph walked through those temple doors, carrying an 8-day-old baby. And Simeon's spirit exploded with recognition. "Now let your servant depart in peace," he cried, "for my eyes have seen your salvation." One moment, one divine appointment, one kairos that justified decades of waiting. But here's the question that's going to haunt you if you don't answer it correctly. What if Simeon had stayed home that day? What if he'd decided he was too old, too tired, too disappointed by previous false alarms? What if you miss your Wednesday because you've let disappointment convince you that nothing extraordinary ever happens to ordinary people like you? Listen to me carefully. The same spirit that whispered to Simeon is whispering to you right now. The same God who orchestrated Joseph's prison to palace miracle is orchestrating something miraculous for your Wednesday. The same divine timing that positioned Esther for her moment of destiny is positioning you for yours. But you have to show up. You have to stay awake. You have to resist the urge to scroll past your appointment with eternity because it doesn't look like what you expected. This is why only 1% will be ready. Because 99% will be too busy, too distracted, too convinced that God doesn't move in their generation, in their city, in their situation. They'll miss the whisper because they're waiting for the shout. They'll miss the gentle knock because they're expecting the door to be kicked down. But you're different. You're here. You're listening. You're part of the remnant that still believes God saves the best wine for last. Your Wednesday is coming. The question is, will you be awake when it arrives? You know what nobody talks about in church? The prayers you whisper at 3 a.m. when the house is quiet and your heart is screaming. Those desperate conversations with God that you'd never repeat to another living soul. The ones where you've bargained, pleaded, and questioned everything you thought you knew about faith. I see you there in that sacred darkness, chosen one. I see the tears you've hidden from your grandchildren, the smile you've painted on every Sunday morning while your soul was dying inside. You've perfected the art of looking fine while falling apart. You've smiled through funerals when your heart wanted to rage. You've stayed strong through goodbyes that ripped pieces of your soul away. You've kept praying while others forgot how, while others moved on with their neat, tidy lives, leaving you standing in the wreckage of shattered dreams and delayed promises. Let me speak to the canyon in your chest where hope used to live. That hollow place that formed when the doctor said terminal, when the bank said foreclosure, when your children stopped calling, when your spouse's chair became permanently empty, and the silence became so loud it threatened to drive you insane. You've been strong for everyone else, haven't you? You've been the rock, the prayer warrior, the one who holds it all together. But who holds you when you're the one breaking? Who sees you when you're invisible? Who remembers your name when the world has moved on without you? Here's what cuts deepest. You've watched people half your age receive the very blessings you've been believing God for your entire life. You've celebrated their promotions while your social security barely covers your medications. You've blessed their new marriages while you eat dinner alone. You've praised God for their healing while your body betrays you with every step. And the questions started creeping in, didn't they? The ones that make you feel guilty for even thinking them. Did I miss my window? Did God forget my zip code? Am I too old now? Too broken? Too irrelevant? Listen to me carefully, dear one. Every disappointment you've swallowed, every dream you've buried, every time you've whispered, maybe I heard wrong, that wasn't evidence of God's absence. That was the sound of your faith being forged in the fire of waiting. That wasn't abandonment. That was preparation. You see, the enemy's greatest weapon against the chosen isn't temptation, it's delay. He knows he can't steal your salvation, so he tries to steal your expectation. He whispers lies about your expiration date, about God's forgetfulness, about your irrelevance in a world that worships youth. But here's the truth that's about to shatter every lie you've believed about being too late. This wasn't the end of your story. This was the cocoon. And this Wednesday, heaven is about to show you what emerges when the Father decides it's time for metamorphosis. The Bible says in Isaiah 46:4, "Even to your old age I am He, and even to grey hairs I will carry you." Did you catch that? Your grey hairs aren't a sign of irrelevance, they're a crown of glory. They're evidence that you've endured, that you've lasted, that you've survived every storm meant to destroy you. Think about the tree outside your window that looked dead all winter. The neighbors probably talked about cutting it down. It stood there bare, brittle, seemingly lifeless. But spring didn't forget that tree's address. And when the time was right, life exploded from branches that looked permanently dead. That tree is you, chosen one. What looked like death was actually dormancy. What felt like abandonment was actually divine strategy. God wasn't ignoring your prayers, He was allowing your roots to grow deeper, your character to strengthen, your faith to mature into something unshakable. Your delays weren't denials, they were divine delays. Every no was protecting you from something that would have destroyed you. Every closed door was steering you away from a path that led nowhere. Every disappointment was God's way of saving the best for when you were strong enough to steward it. And now, after decades of faithfulness, after years of holding on when letting go would have been easier, after seasons of being overlooked and underestimated, God is about to do something so profound, so powerful, so perfectly timed that everyone who witnessed your winter will marvel at your spring. This is not just restoration, dear one. This is resurrection. God doesn't just want to give you back what you lost. He wants to give you what you never dared to dream was possible, at your age, in your condition, with your history. The world measures worth by productivity, by youth, by what you can contribute to the economy. But heaven measures worth by faithfulness, by endurance, by the depth of trust you've developed through decades of walking with the Almighty. And by heaven's standards, you're not winding down, you're being wound up for your greatest chapter. Wednesday carries the weight of vindication. It's not just about a surprise, it's about divine justice. It's about God publicly honoring those who've served him in secret. It's about heaven's response to a generation that's been written off, overlooked, and underestimated. Your grey hairs have witnessed miracles. Your wrinkled hands have folded in prayer more times than you can count. Your weathered face has looked to heaven through decades of storms. And now, it's time for heaven to look back at you, with favor so obvious, so undeniable, that even your doubters will have to acknowledge the hand of God on your life. The surprise coming this Wednesday isn't random, it's righteous. It's not luck, it's loyalty being rewarded. It's not coincidence, it's covenant being fulfilled. If you've ever felt forgotten by God, by family, by a world that seems to have no place for you, I need you to declare something right now, because when you speak it, heaven responds. When you declare it with the authority of someone who's survived every attempt to silence them, atmospheres shift. If you've ever felt forgotten, comment, "Heaven never forgot me." Because what's about to happen this Wednesday will prove that statement beyond any shadow of doubt. But first, you need to understand exactly why you were chosen to carry this weight, why your wilderness season was necessary, and why your breakthrough couldn't come until now. Listen to me carefully, dear chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every preconceived notion you've had about how God moves in your life. The surprise coming this Wednesday isn't wrapped in shiny paper. It won't arrive with fanfare or fireworks. You won't find it under a Christmas tree or in your mailbox. This divine surprise is something far more precious, far more life-altering than anything money could ever buy. It's the surprise of sudden clarity. Picture this. You've been walking through fog for months, maybe years. Every step uncertain, every decision clouded, every prayer feeling like it's bouncing off the ceiling. Then suddenly, without warning, the mist parts. The path becomes crystal clear. Not because you figured it out, but because heaven decided it was time for you to see. That's what a divine surprise feels like. It doesn't knock down your door demanding attention. It whispers. It settles into your soul like morning dew, gentle but undeniable. One moment you're confused, the next moment you simply know. And that knowing changes everything. Let me tell you about Margaret, 82 years old, living in a small apartment in Queens. For 40 years, 40 long, agonizing years, she prayed for her son David. He'd walked away from the family, from faith, from everything that mattered. Thanksgiving tables felt empty. Christmas mornings echoed with silence. Birthday cards returned unopened. Every Wednesday morning, Margaret would kneel by her bed and pray the same prayer. "Lord, bring my boy home." Neighbors thought she was wasting her time. Even her pastor gently suggested she let go and let God. But Margaret knew something they didn't. She knew that God honors persistent faith, even when it looks foolish to the world. Last Wednesday, exactly 40 years, and 3 months after she started praying, her phone rang at 7:43 a.m. The voice on the other end was broken, desperate, but unmistakably familiar. "Mom, It's David. I need to come home. No fanfare, no explanation for the timing. Just a divine whisper that traveled through decades of silence and landed exactly when heaven ordained it. That's what Wednesday holds for you. Your surprise might come as a phone call that changes everything. It might arrive as a sudden peace about a decision that's been tormenting you. Perhaps it'll be a conversation with a stranger who speaks exactly the words your soul needed to hear. Or maybe, just maybe, it'll be that internal shift where confusion gives way to unshakable confidence about your next step. The Bible is filled with these divine interruptions. Abraham and Sarah waited until their bodies were as good as dead before Isaac arrived. Why? Because God wanted to make it absolutely clear that this miracle had his fingerprints all over it. When Isaac finally came, nobody could argue it was natural timing or human effort. Think about Simeon, that elderly man who spent decades in the temple, waiting for the Messiah, day after day, year after year, holding on to a promise that seemed increasingly impossible. His friends probably whispered behind his back. His family likely questioned his sanity. But Simeon knew something they didn't. He knew that God's promises don't come with expiration dates. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning, a young couple walks into the temple carrying a baby. Nothing spectacular about the moment. No heavenly choir, no bright lights. Just a whisper in Simeon's spirit. This is the one you've been waiting for. After decades of waiting, the surprise wasn't loud. It was knowing. Here's what I need you to understand, and this might hurt to hear. The reason your breakthrough has been delayed isn't because God forgot about you. It's because he's been preparing you for the exact moment when your light would be most needed in this dark world. Think about it. If your miracle had come when you first asked for it, would you have the wisdom to steward it properly? If your calling had been revealed in your 20s, would you have had the character to carry it with humility? If your breakthrough had happened when life was easy, would you have the compassion necessary to help others who are struggling? God didn't forget you. He preserved you. Like wine that gets better with age, your anointing has been fermenting in the cellars of delay. Every tear you've cried has added flavor to your testimony. Every disappointment has deepened your capacity for joy. Every unanswered prayer has strengthened your ability to trust when answers don't come quickly. You see, the world is full of young prophets with loud voices but shallow roots. Social media is saturated with motivational speakers who've never faced real adversity. But you've been through the fire. You've walked through valleys that would have destroyed weaker souls. You've kept believing when belief seemed pointless. And now, right now, the world needs what you carry. Wednesday isn't just about your personal breakthrough. It's about positioning you for divine purpose. God has been preparing not just your blessing but your assignment. Not just your miracle, but your mission. The surprise coming this Wednesday will feel like a key turning in a lock that's been stuck for years. Suddenly, doors you couldn't even see will swing wide open. Opportunities will align. People will be drawn to your energy. Resources will flow toward your purpose. But here's the challenge. Will you be ready to receive it? Will you recognize God's whisper when it comes? Or will you dismiss it because it doesn't match your expectations? The question that will determine your Wednesday surprise is this. Are you still listening for God's voice? Or have you convinced yourself he's gone silent? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The difference between the 99% and the 1% isn't blessing, it's belief. It's not about what God gives you, it's about what you're willing to receive when you can't see the whole picture. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, 99% of people hearing this message will nod their heads, feel inspired for a moment, maybe even get goosebumps. But when Wednesday comes, when that divine appointment knocks on their door, they'll hesitate, they'll analyze, they'll wait for more signs, more confirmation, more proof. But you're different. You're the 1%. You see, God has been watching you. He's been studying your response to disappointment. He's been measuring your faith during the silent seasons. And what he's discovered about you has caught heaven's attention. You don't just want breakthrough, you're willing to be broken open for it. The 99% pray for comfort. The 1% pray for commission. Think about Noah. When God told him to build an ark, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, no weather forecast predicting rain, no scientific evidence supporting a worldwide flood, just a whisper from heaven and a choice to obey. The neighbors thought he'd lost his mind. His own family probably questioned his sanity, but Noah belonged to the 1%, those who feel the rain before it falls. Mary was a teenager when an angel appeared with an impossible announcement. You will conceive and give birth to the Son of the Most High. Did she ask for a business plan? Did she demand to see heaven's credentials? Number. She simply said, "Let it be." That's 1% faith. Faith that says yes before understanding arrives. And David, sweet David, forgotten in the fields while his brothers stood before prophets and kings. When Samuel came looking for Israel's next king, nobody even bothered to call the shepherd boy home. But God saw what others missed. He saw a heart that worshipped in the wilderness, a soul that could face giants because he'd already faced lions. You've been in the wilderness too, haven't you? While others were getting promotions, recognition, platforms, you were getting prepared. While they were building careers, you were building character. While they were networking, you were kneeling. And now God is about to flip the script. Here's what I need you to understand about Wednesday. God is about to bless those who are willing to be available without full understanding. He's not looking for people who have it all figured out. He's looking for people who trust him enough to step forward when the path is still forming under their feet. Some plant seeds and wait to see if they'll grow. The 1% feel the rain before it falls. They sense the shift in spiritual seasons. They know that what looks like an ending is actually a beginning disguised as disappointment. You thought your best years were behind you. You thought retirement meant retreat. You thought gray hair meant game over. Let me shatter that lie right now. Your life is not winding down, it's lining up. Every delay you've endured has been divine positioning. Every closed door has been heaven's way of saving you from settling. Every no you've received has been protecting you from a counterfeit yes. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus in the temple. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." You think God's done with you? You think you're too old, too tired, too late. Here's the shocking truth that will revolutionize how you see yourself. You thought you were old, but God calls you oil, the kind that burns longer when aged. Young oil burns bright, but burns out fast. Aged oil burns steady, burns deep, burns with wisdom and intensity that can only come from years of refining. The olive doesn't give its richest oil when it's fresh. It gives its best when it's been pressed, aged, seasoned by time and pressure. That's you. That's who you are. Every wrinkle tells a story of survival. Every gray hair is a trophy of endurance. Every ache in your bones is evidence that you've carried weights others couldn't handle. You're not deteriorating, you're concentrated. You're not declining, you're distilled. The world sees your age and assumes limitation. God sees your age and recognizes maturation. Wednesday isn't just another day for you. It's the day heaven has been preparing for decades. It's the moment when all that pressing, all that aging, all that refining finally produces the breakthrough oil that can light fires and heal wounds and anoint the next generation. But here's the challenge. Here's where the 1% separates from the 99%. God is going to ask you to do something that doesn't make sense to your natural mind. He's going to invite you into an assignment that seems too big for your bank account, too bold for your background, too risky for your stage of life. The 99% will make excuses. They'll say they're too old, too broke, too unknown, too afraid. But the 1% will say what Mary said, "Let it be unto me according to your word." Are you ready to be part of the 1%? Are you ready to feel the rain before it falls? Are you ready to say yes to Wednesday's surprise, even if you can't see Thursday's plan? Because what God is about to release isn't just for you, it's through you. And the world is desperate for what only aged oil can provide. Wednesday was the opening of the gate. But no one told you the hallway would feel this dark. Some of you woke up Thursday morning expecting the fireworks. You were waiting for the phone to ring, the email to arrive, the door to swing wide open. Instead, you were handed silence. Raw, deafening silence that made you question everything you felt just 24 hours earlier. And now you're wondering, did I miss it? Did I mishear heaven? Was that stirring in my spirit just wishful thinking? Let me stop you right there, chosen one. What you're experiencing isn't abandonment, it's incubation. You weren't given a finished blessing on Wednesday. You were handed a divine pregnancy. And just like every pregnancy worth having, there's a period of carrying that feels heavier than the promise itself. Listen to me carefully. This isn't about what shows up in your life. It's about what's being born through your life. Mary didn't wake up the morning after the angel's visit with a fully grown Messiah in her arms. She woke up with morning sickness, questions from her community, and a belly that would grow heavier each day. But inside that apparent emptiness, the salvation of the world was taking shape. Your Wednesday wasn't the delivery room, it was the conception. And right now, you're in the sacred space between promise and manifestation, between yes and here it is, between the angel's announcement and the stable in Bethlehem. This is where most people abort their miracles. They feel the weight. They don't see immediate evidence. They let doubt perform surgery on their faith. But not you, not today, because you're about to understand something that will change how you carry every promise God has ever whispered over your life. The silence you're experiencing isn't God's absence, it's His protection. He's not ignoring your prayers, He's incubating your purpose. Every day that passes without visible proof isn't delay, it's development. Think about this. When a woman is pregnant, the most crucial development happens in the first trimester, when she's showing the least. The heart forms, the brain develops. The foundation for everything that will follow gets established in secret, in darkness, in apparent nothingness. That's where you are right now. Your breakthrough is forming organs. Your blessing is developing a heartbeat. Your miracle is growing bones and breath while you sleep, while you doubt, while you wonder if anything is really happening at all. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every day you stay pregnant with promise, you become more dangerous to his kingdom. Every morning you choose to carry what you cannot yet see. You're participating in the same divine mystery that brought Jesus into the world. The difference between the chosen ones who birth miracles and those who miscarry them isn't the size of their faith, it's the strength of their endurance during the carrying season. Abraham carried the promise of nations for 25 years. 25 years of monthly disappointments. 25 years of friends asking, "So, where are all those descendants God promised?" 25 years of Sarah's empty womb mocking heaven's prophetic word. But he didn't abort the promise. He carried it. And when Isaac finally arrived, the world understood why the timing had to be perfect, why the wait had to be long, why the pregnancy had to be protected. Your Wednesday surprise is still developing. It's not late, it's right on heaven's schedule. Joseph carried a dream for 13 years. 13 years in slavery, 13 years in prison. 13 years of wondering if those childhood visions were just the fantasies of a naive boy. But when Pharaoh finally called him from the dungeon to the palace, every year of carrying made sense. The dream hadn't died, it had been gestating in the darkness, growing stronger, more detailed, more powerful. You think you missed your moment, but you're actually living in it. This carrying season isn't punishment, it's preparation. God isn't making you wait because He's forgotten you. He's making you wait because what's coming requires a different version of you than who you were on Wednesday. Every prophet, every patriarch, every person who ever shifted history had to learn the sacred art of carrying invisible promises through visible storms. But here's the part that will blow your mind. While you're worried about when your breakthrough will show up, heaven is more concerned with who you're becoming while you wait. The woman who receives the promise isn't the same woman who carries it to term. The carrying changes you. Pregnancy doesn't just produce a baby, it transforms the mother. Your bones shift. Your heart expands. Your capacity increases. Your priorities rearrange themselves. And right now, in this mysterious space between Wednesday's promise and its manifestation, you're being fundamentally reconstructed. Your spiritual DNA is being rewritten. Your faith muscles are being strengthened. Your discernment is being sharpened. If you've been confused since Wednesday, if you've been carrying questions heavier than answers, if you've been wondering whether you heard from God or from your own desperate heart, comment right now. I'm still carrying the promise. Let's carry it together. Because here's what I know, after 5 decades of watching God work. The promises that take the longest to develop are usually the ones that last the longest once they're born. Your Wednesday surprise isn't delayed. It's developing. And what's being formed in the secret place is about to astonish everyone who thought you were carrying nothing but false hope. The question isn't whether God will keep his word. The question is, will you keep carrying it until he does? You received the word. You felt the confirmation burning in your chest like wildfire. The presence was so thick you could barely breathe, and for that sacred moment, that holy, untouchable moment, you knew beyond knowing that God had spoken your name into destiny. But now everything feels quieter. The silence is deafening, isn't it? Where once there was that electric hum of heaven's frequency, now there's just the ordinary tick of your kitchen clock and the weight of Wednesday mornings that feel more mundane than miraculous. You're sitting there wondering if you imagined it all, if that burning in your spirit was just heartburn from last night's dinner, if that prophetic word was just wishful thinking wrapped in spiritual language. Dear chosen one, let me shatter that lie right now. You didn't imagine anything. You didn't manufacture that moment. Heaven doesn't send confirmation texts, it sends confirmation through your spirit, and what you felt was as real as the breath in your lungs right now. But here's what nobody told you about divine encounters. They don't come with instruction manuals for the aftermath. You thought the promise was instant. You expected the blessing to arrive with Amazon Prime speed, ordered on Sunday, delivered by Tuesday. But God's promises aren't shipped via UPS, my friend. They're delivered through divine gestation, and gestation takes time. Look at Mary. Sweet, teenage Mary, minding her own business in Nazareth when Gabriel shows up with heaven's announcement. You will conceive and give birth to a son. The angel delivered the word. The power overshadowed her. The impossible became possible in that single, earth-shaking moment. But then what happened? Gabriel left. The angel packed up his wings and vanished back to glory, leaving Mary alone with a promise that would take 9 months to manifest. 9 months of morning sickness, 9 months of whispered gossip, 9 months of wondering if she'd really heard from God, or if she was just another unwed teenager with a wild story. The angel left, but the waiting began. This is where you are right now. You're not in the visitation anymore, you're in the gestation. And gestation is messy, it's uncomfortable, it's filled with questions that pierce your faith like contractions pierce a mother's body. Did I really hear from God? Is this really happening? Why does it feel like nothing's moving when everything should be accelerating? Listen to me carefully. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. There's a sacred space between prophecy and manifestation, between the word and the delivery, between thus saith the Lord and it is finished. That space isn't empty, it's pregnant. It's not silent, it's incubating. It's not evidence of God's absence, it's proof of his intimate involvement in the details of your destiny. God didn't deliver you a gift. He delivered you into gestation. And here's what they don't tell you about spiritual pregnancy. It's not pretty. Mary didn't glow for 9 months. She threw up, she swelled, she ached, she questioned. The Son of God was forming inside her, and it felt more like morning sickness than morning glory. Your destiny is forming right now. even when it feels like death. Your breakthrough is taking shape, even when it looks like breakdown. Your miracle is in the womb of time, growing cell by cell, day by day, prayer by prayer, tear by tear. But why does it hurt so much? Because formation is violent. Ask any mother who's ever carried life. Creation comes through contraction. Birth comes through blood. The greater the destiny, the more intense the labor pains. You're not suffering because God forgot about you. You're suffering because something magnificent is being born, and birth is never comfortable. You thought you missed it when the feeling faded. You thought the promise expired when the goosebumps disappeared. But feelings were never the foundation. Faith was. And faith doesn't need feelings to keep building. Faith builds in the dark. Faith constructs in the silence. Faith works the night shift when emotions have clocked out. Joseph spent 13 years between his dream and his throne. 13 years of slavery, false accusations, and forgotten promises. But every day in that Egyptian prison, his destiny was under construction. Every tear was a brick. Every betrayal was building materials. Every no was positioning him for the ultimate yes. Where are you in your 13 years? Maybe you're in year 3, wondering when the prison doors will open. Maybe you're in year 10, convinced you misheard the dream. Maybe you're in year 12, 1 year away from breakthrough, but feeling like you're a lifetime away from blessing. But Wednesday is coming, and Wednesday carries the weight of completion. Something shifts on Wednesday. The atmospheric pressure changes. The spiritual barometer drops. The very molecules in the air rearrange themselves to accommodate what heaven is about to release. You've been in the womb long enough. The contractions have been getting stronger, more frequent, more intense. Your spirit has been restless because birth is imminent. Your sleep has been fitful because promotion is pressing against the walls of delay. This Wednesday isn't just another day, it's your due date. But here's the question that will determine everything. Are you ready to push? Are you ready to labor for what God has been laboring over in you? Or are you going to let fear convince you that the pains are punishment instead of progression? Because what happens next will separate the chosen from the comfortable, the destined from the distracted, the 1% from the 99% who will let this moment pass by, like just another Wednesday, in just another week, in just another ordinary year. But you're not ordinary, are you? You don't develop film in sunlight. You develop it in darkness. Every photographer worth their salt knows this fundamental truth. Light exposes the negative, but darkness reveals the masterpiece. And right now, chosen one, you're not lost in some cosmic accident. You're being developed in God's dark room. You've lived long enough to know that most things God does, He does in shadows first. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he parted the Red Sea. Joseph rotted in prison before he ruled Egypt. David hid in caves before he wore a crown. The pattern is unmistakable, isn't it? But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night, praying for souls like yours. You're treating your dark season like punishment when God is treating it like preparation. You're calling it abandonment when heaven calls it appointment. Let me tell you about Eleanor Martinez from Queens. 83 years old. Silver-haired saint who's been coming to our church for decades. 18 years ago, her son Michael was in a motorcycle accident. Doctors said he'd never walk again. 18 years, she prayed. 18 years she believed. 18 years of darkness. Do you know what happened last Wednesday? Not Tuesday. Not Thursday. Wednesday. Michael stood up from that wheelchair and took his first steps in nearly 2 decades. No fanfare, no cameras, just a whisper from heaven that said, now. The breakthrough didn't come with thunder, it came with tenderness. Here's the devastating truth about your current season that nobody's telling you. The hallway isn't punishment, it's preparation. That space between your prayer and your promise, that's not God's forgetfulness. That's His faithfulness working in ways your mind can't compute but your spirit recognizes. Listen to me carefully. The silence isn't the absence of God. It's the womb of the Word. Every word God speaks is pregnant with power, but pregnancy requires darkness, quiet, and time. You don't rush a baby. You don't rush a breakthrough. Isaiah 45:3 says, I will give you treasures hidden in darkness, riches stored in secret places, hidden treasures, secret riches. God doesn't hide things from you. He hides things for you, until you're ready to handle the weight of what He's prepared. But I need to shake something loose in your spirit right now. Stop romanticizing your pain and start recognizing your position. You think you're in timeout, but you're actually in training. You think you're being ignored, but you're being prepared for impact. What's happening in your life right now, the closed doors, the silent heavens, the delayed answers, it's not divine cruelty, it's divine chemistry. God is mixing elements in your life that can only combine in darkness, faith and patience, humility and power, surrender and strength. Do you remember what Jesus said in John 16:21? A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come, but when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. What you think is a delay is actually dilation. Your soul is dilating, your spirit is expanding, your capacity is increasing, because what God is about to birth through you on Wednesday requires a bigger opening than you currently have. The pressure you're feeling isn't to break you, it's to stretch you. But here's where most people miss it. Here's where even good church folks get it wrong. They think darkness means distance. They think silence means separation. They think the wait means no when it actually means not yet. Job sat in ashes for months. But when God spoke, He didn't just restore what Job had lost. He doubled it. Doubled. That's not consolation. That's multiplication mathematics that only works in the dark room of divine development. You've been asking God, how much longer? But God's been asking you, how much deeper? Because the depth of your roots determines the height of your fruit. And right now, dear one, your roots are going deeper than they've ever gone. The darkness you're walking through isn't random. It's strategic. It's surgical. God is removing things from your life that would contaminate what He's about to give you. He's cutting away relationships that would drain your destiny. He's closing doors that would lead to dead ends. He's silencing voices that would confuse your calling. This is precision work. This is master craftsmanship. This is love expressing itself through apparent loss. But Wednesday, Wednesday, something shifts. The negative becomes positive. The hidden becomes visible. The whisper becomes a word. What's been developing in darkness steps into light. I've pastored for 50 years, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. God's surprises never come early, but they never come late. They come exactly when your character can handle your calling. They come precisely when your foundation can support your future. The question isn't whether God remembers your name. The question is whether you'll recognize His voice when He calls it on Wednesday. Eleanor Martinez waited 18 years for one Wednesday moment. Job waited through months of misery for one divine conversation. Moses waited 40 years for one burning bush encounter. What makes you think your Wednesday won't be worth your wait? But here's what I need you to understand before we go any deeper into what Wednesday holds for you. You're crying right now, aren't you? Maybe not on the outside, but somewhere deep in your chest there's a sob that's been building for months, years even. And you know what? Good. You're crying not because you're weak, but because something is crowning. Something divine is pressing against the walls of your old life, demanding to be born. Let me tell you something that's going to shake every religious lie you've been told. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to feel like this. The church never prepared you for this part, did they? They told you about the blessings, the breakthroughs, the victories. But nobody warned you about the sacred tearing that happens when God decides to birth something new through your life. Nobody explained that promotion comes through labor pains that feel like they're going to split you in half. Listen to me closely. When Jesus was in Gethsemane, sweating drops of blood, do you think that was comfortable? When He cried out, my God, Why have you forsaken me? Do you think that was a casual prayer? Number. That was spiritual labor. That was the sound of heaven being birthed through human agony. You've been in your Gethsemane, haven't you? You've been pressing your face into the dirt, begging God to take this cup from you. The job that's crushing your spirit. The relationship that's bleeding you dry. The calling that feels too heavy for your shoulders. The dream that seems to be killing you slowly, one disappointment at a time. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to feel like this. Isaiah 66:9 says, "Do I bring to the moment of birth and not give delivery? Do I close the womb when I bring to delivery?" God doesn't start labor just to leave you stuck at 9 centimeters. He doesn't initiate the breaking without planning the breakthrough. But here's what you need to understand about divine labor. When something is about to be born, there is pressure, contraction, tearing, screaming, and then the push. You know what happens in natural childbirth when the mother fights the contractions. When she tenses up and resists the pain, labor stops. The baby gets stuck. What should take hours takes days. What should flow becomes forced. The very resistance to pain prolongs the agony. That's exactly what's happening to you spiritually. You've been fighting the contractions. You've been cursing the process. You've been asking God why He's allowing this pressure, when what you should be asking is, what are you trying to birth through me? Every prophet who ever walked this earth went through spiritual labor. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness getting his pride beat out of him before God could use him to deliver a nation. David hid in caves, running from Saul, learning to worship in the darkness before he could lead from a throne. Joseph rotted in prison, falsely accused and forgotten, until the very injustice that broke him became the platform that elevated him. The pain you're feeling right now, it's not punishment, it's preparation. You think God's forgotten you. You think He's abandoned you in this valley. Let me shock you with some truth. God hasn't forgotten you. He's focusing on you. The pressure you're under isn't because you're cursed, it's because you're chosen. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on nobodies. He attacks those who carry something that threatens his kingdom. That breakdown you had last Tuesday, that moment when you couldn't get out of bed, that wasn't depression, that was your old self dying so your new self could breathe. That anxiety that keeps you up at 3 a.m., that's not fear, that's anticipation. Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to feel like this. But chosen one, listen to me now. What's coming through you is holy. What's being squeezed out of you isn't just for you, it's for generations. The tears you're crying today are watering seeds for tomorrow's harvest. The nights you're losing sleep are preparing you for the responsibility that requires supernatural stamina. Don't curse the labor. Don't medicate the pain. Don't shortcut the process. Because every contraction is positioning your blessing. Every wave of agony is pushing your purpose closer to the surface. Every moment when you feel like you're dying is actually the sound of legacy being born. You want to know why only 1% make it through? Because 99% quit during labor. They give up when the pain peaks. They check out when the pressure mounts. They medicate when they should be meditating. They run when they should be pushing. But not you. Not today. Not after everything you've endured to get to this point. You've come too far to quit now. You've survived too much to surrender during the final push. Chosen one, what's coming through you is holy. Don't curse the labor, it's birthing legacy. Wednesday isn't just another day, it's your delivery date. It's when heaven says, push one more time. It's when the spiritual midwife, the Holy Spirit Himself, looks you in the eye and says, I can see the head. Your breakthrough is crowning. One more push and you're holding your miracle. The question isn't whether you can handle the pain. The question is, are you ready to meet what you've been carrying? If this message is hitting the place that hurts, if something inside you is screaming yes through the tears, write in the comments, I won't give up during labor. Because when thousands of chosen ones refuse to quit during the hardest part, heaven takes notice. When the 1% pushes through while the 99% gives up, miracles get delivered. Are you ready to push through to Wednesday's surprise? Or are you going to let the labor stop your legacy? Listen to me, chosen one. Every single promise that God has ever whispered over your life comes with a pharaoh. Every divine birth is met with a dragon. This isn't theology, this is warfare. And right now you're in the crosshairs. The book of Revelation chapter 12 paints it crystal clear. The dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. That dragon wasn't there by accident. He wasn't just wandering around heaven looking for trouble. No, he was positioned. He was waiting. Because he knew something was about to be delivered that would shift the balance of power forever. And dear one, that's exactly what's happening in your life right now. You think the enemy attacks you because you're weak. You think he comes for you because you're failing. Think again. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty chambers. He doesn't position his best demons around barren wombs. He attacks because he knows you're not empty, you're full of fire. You're carrying something that terrifies the kingdom of darkness. That's why the fight got worse after Wednesday. You felt it, didn't you? The moment you said yes to God's surprise, hell's surveillance went into overdrive. You lost sleep not because of stress, but because your spirit was being targeted. You felt discouraged, not because God abandoned you, but because the enemy recognized the threat you pose. You started to doubt everything, your calling, your worth, your future, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. But here's what the devil doesn't want you to understand. Every attack is confirmation. Every assault is evidence. Every battle is proof that you're carrying something heaven stamped with divine approval. Think about Moses. Pharaoh didn't order the slaughter of Hebrew babies until he realized they were multiplying with supernatural strength. He didn't fear them when they were broken. He feared them when they were breeding. The attack came because deliverance was in the nursery. Think about Jesus. Herod didn't massacre the children of Bethlehem until the wise men confirmed that a king had been born. The slaughter wasn't random violence, it was targeted terrorism. The enemy knew that divinity had entered humanity, and he was desperate to destroy it before it could walk, talk, and turn water into wine. And think about you. The attacks intensified because your breakthrough has a heartbeat. The pressure increased because your promise is in the birth canal. The fight got fiercer because heaven's surprise is crowning. You are a carrier, chosen one, and heaven's surveillance has you under divine protection, even when you don't feel it. Even when the nights are long and the doubts are loud and the attacks are relentless, God has stationed angels around your destiny like Secret Service around the president. You're not unprotected, you're priority one. But let me tell you something that will shatter every lie the enemy has whispered in your ear during these dark hours. The pain is proof that the womb is not empty. The pressure is proof that the gate is about to open. When a woman is in labor, the contractions don't mean the baby is dying, they mean the baby is coming. The agony doesn't signal failure, it signals delivery. The pressure doesn't indicate death, it indicates life pushing its way into the world with unstoppable force. Your spiritual contractions have been building for months. The pain you've been feeling, that's not punishment, that's preparation. The pressure that's been mounting, that's not condemnation, that's anticipation. Your soul has been dilating, expanding, making room for something so massive that it requires supernatural anesthesia just to survive the birth process. And here's what breaks my heart. While you've been apologizing for the pain, heaven has been celebrating the progress. While you've been questioning the process, angels have been preparing the delivery room. While you've been doubting your strength, the Holy Spirit has been coaching you through every contraction. This is why Wednesday was just the beginning. That divine surprise wasn't the full revelation, it was the first kick. It was heaven's way of saying, get ready, something's coming that's going to change everything. But the enemy heard that announcement too, and he mobilized every force of hell to convince you that you're not strong enough, not worthy enough, not ready enough to carry what God is about to deliver through you. He lied. You've been in training for this moment your entire life. Every disappointment was strength training. Every closed door was endurance building. Every attack was preparation for this final push. You are not unprepared, you are precisely prepared. You are not overwhelmed, you are about to overflow. The contractions are getting closer together now. The pressure is intensifying. And that terrifies the kingdom of darkness, because they know what you're about to birth is going to shake foundations, break chains, and liberate captives they've held in bondage for generations. Your breakthrough isn't just personal, it's prophetic. Your victory isn't just individual, it's generational. What's coming through you is going to impact bloodlines, break curses, and establish new kingdom realities that will outlive your great-grandchildren. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you push when the pressure peaks, or will you panic when the contractions come? Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. You're standing in the most dangerous place a believer can stand. You're in transition. And I need you to understand something that could save your destiny. This is where 99% of God's people quit. Not in the valley. Not during the storm. They quit in the hallway between their old life and their promise. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange, uncomfortable space where nothing feels familiar anymore. Your old prayers don't fit. Your old patterns feel foreign. You're too far from where you were to go back, but you can't quite see where you're going. That's not confusion, beloved. That's transition. And the enemy knows something about transition that most believers don't. It's the kill zone. Right now, you're like a woman in the hardest part of labor. The final contractions before birth. Everything in you wants to quit. The pain is overwhelming. You can't see the end. But I need you to hear what every good midwife knows. The hardest push comes right before the breakthrough. You're closer than you've ever been, but this is where most people tap out. They quit because the hallway doesn't look like the room they're headed to. They quit because transition feels like abandonment. They quit because they mistake the labor pains for punishment instead of recognizing them as the birth pangs of their promise. But you're not most people, are you? Look at Jesus in Gethsemane. Matthew 26-39. My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. The pain almost stopped the plan. The weight of what was coming almost crushed the Savior of the world. But he said yes again, in the garden, in the agony, in the place where every human instinct screamed run. He said yes in the pain. And that's what separated him from every other person who ever walked this earth. The promise doesn't fully come when you say yes once. It arrives when you say yes in pain. Most people think faith is saying yes when everything makes sense, when the path is clear, when the outcome is guaranteed. But that's not faith, dear one. That's just good planning. Real faith is saying yes when your heart is breaking, when your mind is confused, when your body is exhausted, and when everyone around you thinks you've lost your mind. I've been ministering for 50 years, and I've watched thousands of people get to this exact spot. The spot where God whispers, "It's time," and their flesh screams, "I can't." The spot where heaven says, "Trust me," and earth says, "Prove it." This is your Gethsemane moment. The question isn't whether you're ready. You'll never feel ready for what God has for you. The question is whether you'll say yes anyway. Because here's what the devil doesn't want you to know. Every giant you've faced, every disappointment you've endured, every closed door, every delayed promise, every tear you've cried in secret, it was all preparation for this one moment. You think you've been wandering. God calls it training. You think you've been forgotten. God calls it positioning. You think you've been punished. God calls it preparation. And now, right now, as you sit in this transition space, feeling like you're falling apart, God is about to show you why you had to go through everything you went through. The Israelites wandered 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years of complaining, doubting, wanting to go back to Egypt. But Joshua 3:16 tells us that when they finally stepped into the Jordan River to cross into their promise, the water from upstream stopped flowing. The river that had been flowing for centuries suddenly stood still. One step of obedience stopped a river. Your Wednesday step is going to stop some rivers too. The river of lack that's been flowing through your family for generations. The river of sickness that's tried to drown your destiny. The river of confusion that's kept you spinning in circles. When you take that step of faith on Wednesday, when you say yes in your transition, some things that have been flowing against you are going to stop flowing. But you have to push. You have to push when it hurts. You have to push when you can't see. You have to push when everyone else has given up on you. Because this next push, this next yes, this next act of faith, this next step into the unknown will deliver what 40 years of waiting couldn't. I can see some of you right now, sitting there thinking, but I'm so tired. I've been pushing for so long. What if nothing happens? What if I'm wrong? What if this is just another disappointment? Listen to me. The woman in labor doesn't get to see the baby before she pushes. She doesn't get a guarantee. She doesn't get a preview. She just gets a promise. If you push through this pain, life will come forth. Your Wednesday is your final push, and the beautiful, terrifying, life-changing surprise that's been forming in the spiritual womb is about to be born into your reality. But only if you don't quit in transition. So here's my question for you. Are you going to let transition become your graveyard or your graduation? Chosen one, as we come to the end of our time together tonight, I need you to remember 3 things that could change everything for you. First, Wednesday is not just another day. It's your divine appointment. God has been orchestrating circumstances, aligning people, and preparing breakthrough specifically for you. The 1% who recognize this moment will step into something the other 99% will miss entirely. Second, transition is not your enemy. That uncomfortable space you're in right now, where nothing feels familiar and everything feels uncertain, that's not punishment. That's preparation. You're not falling apart. You're falling into place. And third, your breakthrough has already been approved in heaven. It's not a maybe. It's not a possibility. It's a promise that's been stamped with the blood of Jesus and sealed by the Spirit of the living God. But I want you to know something else. Something that might be even more important than everything we've talked about tonight. You are not walking this journey alone. God hasn't abandoned you in your transition. He's closer to you now than he's ever been. When you can't feel him, he's holding you. When you can't hear him, he's whispering your name. When you can't see him, he's clearing the path ahead of you. And you're not alone in this community either. There are thousands of people watching this right now who understand exactly what you're going through. They've felt that same holy restlessness. They've experienced that same divine tension. They've wrestled with that same question. Is this really God, or am I losing my mind? Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. What if the very thing you're afraid to hope for is exactly what God is preparing to release? What if Wednesday isn't just another day of disappointment, but the day your life splits into before and after? Before we close, I want to pray over you. Not just a casual prayer, but the kind of prayer that breaks through atmospheres and touches the heart of God. So wherever you are right now, I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and receive this blessing. Father God, I'm standing here as a representative of everyone who's watching this message tonight. I know you see them. I know. You know their names, their struggles, their secret dreams, and their silent tears. Right now, in the name of Jesus, I'm asking you to touch every person who's been waiting, wondering, and wrestling with transition. Lord, for those who feel forgotten, remind them they're remembered. For those who feel abandoned, wrap them in your presence. For those who feel confused about your timing, give them peace that surpasses understanding. And Father, for every person who's been brave enough to believe that Wednesday holds something special for them, I'm asking you to exceed their expectations. Open doors that no man can shut. Release favor that defies explanation. Pour out blessings that silence every doubt. And God, when Wednesday comes, let them feel your hand moving in ways so obvious, so undeniable, that they'll never question your faithfulness again. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Chosen one, I want you to do something for me right now. In the comments below, I want you to type, "I'm ready for